Now loading podcast, period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podcast Period, the internet's stupidest podcast, Halloween edition, literally. My name is Ben, and with me today is my co-host David.
What's up, guys?
Today,
remember you're on video now. You can't do
that. Yeah. Well, I did it anyway. It's too late now. Anyway, this episode we are covering 1978's Halloween, the original Halloween, from John Carpenter. It's the first time I've watched the movie, and I don't think it's the first time David's watched the movie, but it's been long enough that he probably doesn't remember it anyway, so it's basically the same, right?
I remembered more of it than I thought I was going to.
Really?
I've seen it more recently than I'd seen the other one that we were talking about, so I remembered more than I thought I would, but honestly, I'd forgotten most of it, so it's whatever.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so before we hop into talking about the movie proper, we're going to give a quick synopsis. So, on a cold Halloween night in 1963, 6-year-old Michael Myers brutally murders his 17-year-old sister Judith. He was sentenced and locked away for 15 years, but on October 30th, 1978, while being transferred for a court date, a 21-year-old Michael Myers steals a car and escapes Smith's Grove. He returns to his quiet hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois, where he looks for his next victims. Ooh, spooky. So, before I give my initial thoughts, I want to hear what you thought about it.
So, from what I could remember, and it's been a while since I watched it, I thought it was more fast-paced. Like, it's good. I like it, but it's so slow in the beginning. It's like, come on, when is somebody going to die already? And I know that's a terrible thing to say, but it's like, why aren't you guys dead yet? We play, like, 30 minutes of, like, close-up camera shots and creepiness, but we never see anybody dying. It's like, come on, kill somebody.
Wow, okay.
I know.
See whose side you're on.
A little bit. What do you think?
I mean, it's got a reputation behind it, obviously. It's one of those, like, one of the big horror movie giants next to, like, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, which we ended up covering last Halloween, if you guys didn't hear that. I found it a lot more enjoyable than I thought I would, though. Because, I mean, I liked Nightmare on Elm Street, but even thinking back on it now, it's, I don't know, it wasn't as great as I maybe originally thought it was.
Yeah.
But this movie, knowing really nothing about it going into it, except for the fact that, you know, it's a dude in a mask that goes around killing people, I found it really enjoyable. I actually really liked this movie, watching it today.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's not as scary as I remember it being. Like,
it definitely got me a couple times. Like the first time when he when she's outside of his house dropping off the key, and it plays that little sting, and he steps like right in front of the window. I was like, oh God, look, it got me. But beyond that, it wasn't super. You're right. It wasn't super scary. But there was definitely some parts in there that I could feel tension. I guess.
I think the biggest part that I had, that was like the biggest jump scare for me, was I think it was a piece of gutter or something fell down and hit that window and cracked the window, and it's like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, that part got me a little bit too. But I don't think it got me as much as the beginning with with him stepping out in front of the window. That was pretty scary though.
Yeah, that was a good part. The what was the other thing that got me really good? I can't remember. Oh, it was when the I'm assuming it was one of the other. No, it was Michael. He jumped on top of the car in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
when he escaped. Okay,
mm-hmm.
that was a little bit of a jump scare too. When he crawled up the back window all of a sudden, and then smashed the window on the side.
I didn't understand what was going on there. Who was driving off with the car until later on when the doctor dude was explaining everything. I was like, oh, some random patient just drove away in the car. Well, that kind of sucks. I guess they're gonna have to go find Michael Myers now.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was him. Okay. They didn't explain that part very well while they were in it, but it makes sense considering the movie as a whole. So
I just realized I have paint on my fingers. I had my hand up to the screen and I saw the paint across my knuckles. I was like, oh, well, that's going to show up. You guys have never seen my room before, but that big old patch right there is evidence that I'm in the middle of repainting. So,
well, I mean, they haven't seen this apartment of mine either. Last time we did anything like this for podcast period was when I was in Tennessee still.
We didn't do anything with the other place, did we?
Nope. It was all audio.
Whatever. So, Hey, excuse the mess.
It doesn't look bad. It's all right.
It's okay. It'll be fine.
My apartment probably looks worse, but that's fine. Anyway.
All right. What's next?
I don't know. I kind of want to talk about the actual kills in the movie because none of them, except for, actually no, none of them felt like they should have died to me. Like the girl in the car when Michael was choking her, it just felt like she gave up. It didn't look like she had actually died.
None of them looked like it was really that much of a like. I don't know. It's never happened to me. I've never been strangled from behind, but
this is true. Yeah,
I feel like I'd scream really bloody murder.
None of them really looked like real. Like the people were clearly struggling, but it was like kind of a half-hearted struggle.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they were trying to make Michael feel like he was like supernaturally strong or just abnormally strong or whatever, but
I don't know.
It didn't feel like they were really selling any of that to me.
No.
So
I agree with that. It was one of those things like it kind of looked fake. You could see his feet were up in the air, sure, but it looked like it was too effortless. Yeah. When he killed the first, what was it, Bob? Was it Bob? I think it was Bob.
Bob was second.
Bob was second?
Yeah. It was the girl in the car first. I can't remember her name. And then Bob,
no, I mean the first boyfriend. Wasn't there two boyfriends that died?
Yeah. No, just the one.
Just the one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shows what I remember. All right, yeah, that's right, because the other boyfriend never showed up.
Yeah.
She was going to go get him.
She didn't make it out to go get him.
Exactly. Got to the car was locked, went to go back. I'd be so suspicious of that. As soon as she opened that door and it was unlocked, it's like, oh, well, she's done.
Oh, her mind was clearly on other things.
I mean, clear.
So, you know.
Hey, whatever.
I mean, I can't say I blame her, but still, at least pay a little bit of attention.
You went to get the keys, and the car is unlocked. Shouldn't that have gone off in your head a little bit?
It probably would have gone off for me. But then again, there has to be some. I don't know. There has to be some suspension of disbelief as far as that goes for a horror movie to work, because I feel like most people in horror movie situations would be a lot more attentive. I mean, there's definitely those people who would be like, "Oh, car door's open now. Cool, whatever. Let's get inside."
Mm-hmm.
But most people, I feel, that would give them at least a little bit of pause before doing anything else. So
I would feel like it.
yeah, let me see if I can find it. There's a meme that I found on Reddit. I sent it to the Something Ghoulish Slack channel
Uh-huh.
the other day. Oh, Lord, how far up is it? Here we go. So it's a four panel comic. The first panel, all the panels feature two dudes.
Uh-huh.
The first panel says, "We're inside a horror movie. We're gonna die." Next panel says, "Wait a second, I have." Third panel, "I have common sense." And then the last panel is just the credits rolling, and one of the dudes says, "Well, that was easy."
That is so true.
Uh-huh.
It's like, don't open that door. Don't go outside because you heard a strange noise.
Mm-hmm.
You're running from a killer in the middle of the woods. Maybe it's not a good idea to try to hide behind a tree.
Mm-hmm. Just keep running.
Just keep running.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go into the haunted house that everybody says is going to do something to you if you go in there on the middle of Halloween night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Common sense would do a lot of people good.
Yeah. No.
But then we wouldn't have all these cheesy horror movies either.
This is true. This isn't what I was called cheesy, but you're definitely right.
No, this one's pretty good.
The perfect example of not having common sense, I think, in this movie would be even after Laurie knows something is going on inside of the house, she still enters the house and doesn't turn any of the lights on.
Yeah.
She doesn't even try to. She just walks in the house and starts trying to find things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't you at least turn on all the lights? I would.
I would.
Just go in there and flip on every light you can find.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that I've always been like, yeah, this is one of those situations that calls for full lighting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've never liked going into a house where it's been completely dark. Every time I walk in my front door, light comes on.
I guess it just depends on what it is and where it is, because there's plenty of times where I wouldn't care.
Yeah, maybe.
But if it's an unfamiliar place... Ay. In the middle of something here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. People.
Gotta love them, right?
Gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it just depends on where it is and who it is. If it was an unfamiliar place, I'd be like you, turning on all the lights.
Yeah.
If I was spooked for some reason, or if I'm going to go investigate something for some reason, I'd be turning on all the lights. Just walking into my house in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
Who cares?
There's no way. There's no way.
All right, guys, you've done enough. Like, you know something's up. And she's seen this guy all day. Like, she's been spooked by him how many times?
She's seen him at least, I don't know, probably
3,
at least
4?
10 times.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe. That's a lot.
Yeah, maybe that much.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. The car.
Uh-huh.
The bush.
Yep, and then him standing outside
in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Of somebody's house. Or front yard, whatever yard it was.
I guess that would be the last time she saw him, though.
I think.
Until the very end.
The kid saw him a few times.
Yeah, but she didn't believe him.
No. Kept calling him the boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't wrong.
No.
I don't know.
Definitely not
You'd think
fun.
she'd put 2 and 2 together. But hey, like you said, common sense.
Yeah, it's a horror movie. It's one of those prototypical horror movies too, where it's like it's not bad, but you can definitely see where some modern horror movies get their ideas from.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing feels like crazy to me. The only thing that I wasn't 100% sure on was the fact that she stabbed this dude so many times and he still managed to get up that last time. Like, she stabbed him in the neck with a crochet needle, and then I guess stabbed him in the eye with a hanger,
Yeah.
and then stabbed him a couple times in the chest after she got hold of his knife. And then finally, 6 shots to the chest and the face brought him down with that one dude, the doctor guy.
I don't know if there's like an extended cut version or if I'm confusing it with another movie. But I could have sworn somebody had fallen out of... I don't know what it is. Somebody fell out of movie. I could have sworn it was Michael Myers. Fell out of like the second story window. Pretty sure he was shot. So I'm pretty sure it was this movie. And then they pan out and he's gone again. He's disappeared. He's not laying out there like he was the first time they look out. Like the doctor goes out, looks out the window and looks to see his corpse and it's gone. He's vanished again.
Yeah, that's this movie.
Okay, is it?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's at the very end.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
I may have not have been in the room at that point or something. Maybe I had to go do something. 'Cause my mom was in here watching it.
It was a pretty quick scene either way. So
Okay.
It's not something that it's definitely something where if you weren't looking at it, you could have missed. So.
Okay, that may have been it. I was like, I could have sworn there was this part where they showed him being gone again. Because you'd think the 6 shots would have killed him, and that'd be the end of it, and the fall, and then poof, he's gone again. But I didn't see it this time, so I thought it was.
I feel like they're setting him up to be a sort of pseudo supernatural entity, kind of like Chucky or Freddy.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested enough in this to watch the sequels. So maybe I'll seek those out on my own time and watch them. We'll see.
I still can't believe you made it all this time and hadn't watched this movie.
I don't know. It's just not. It's not one of those movies that I felt compelled to seek out after I had gained my media independence.
Independence.
You know? Yeah. I wanted to see Aliens. That was like one of the first movies that I picked up. Aliens, Predator. God, I can't even remember what else. A few movies.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I still have somewhere. I know I definitely have my Aliens combo set. Yeah, I got Predator too. Yeah, I don't remember what all ones I went out and bought, but I think I bought Rambo too. But yeah, so this isn't one of the ones that I felt compelled to seek out and watch. But I'm not really like huge into horror movies anyway. I'm more of like a I like thrillers, which I guess could be kind of considered horror, but mostly like action movies, some drama movies, sci-fi. I don't know, nothing extremely horror centric as far as that's concerned, though. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this will turn me a new leaf.
What did you think about introducing Jamie Lee Curtis? How did you think she spared?
She was okay. I honestly didn't recognize her throughout most of the movie. Like that didn't look like Jamie Lee Curtis to me. I knew that it was because I knew this was like she's like a recurring character in the Halloween franchise now. But I don't know. She was fine. It's hard to say whether I believed her acting or not. Most of it was okay. I just feel like it could have been done a little bit better.
A little bit.
For me.
A little bit. Yeah. I agree with you.
It's early Jamie Lee Curtis. I definitely enjoyed most of the stuff that I've seen her in here lately, like Knives Out. She was fantastic in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was fine. I don't know. I feel like I feel like all the teenage actors in this movie could have been done a little bit better, except with the exception of the other babysitter girl, the one that got killed first. She was I was convinced that she was like an actual person as far as the movie was concerned.
Yeah.
Everybody else just felt like people trying to act like people. Jamie Lee Curtis was a little bit better than that, but as far as the teenage cast goes, that girl was the best.
I gotcha. What else you got? Hit me.
I don't know. There's not. I hate to be that way, but I mean, when I like a movie, there's not. I feel like there's not like a whole lot to talk about. You know, I just want to say that I like the movie a lot. Then people should go watch it. I did like the score, the reoccurring Halloween theme throughout everything. How that kind of foreshadowed everywhere you would see Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And the cinematography in the movie is fantastic too. There's not really any low points except for one weird cut that I saw. But other than that, I can't think of anything that like turned me off or took me out of the movie or anything. So, What about you?
I think it's just an all around good movie, but there's not a lot that goes on in it, so there's not a lot that I feel like you could cover. I mean, I think people should watch it if they haven't watched it. I feel like it's a classic and an iconic thing that most people haven't watched it by now. They probably don't care.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It might be a mute point to say I think people should watch it, because I feel like everybody has, except you, for whatever reason.
I guess so.
And then, I know the next one I'm going to get you to watch if you haven't already watched it yet. Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, complete the horror trifecta.
Exactly. We got Freddy, now we got Michael. We got to go after Jason next.
Well, I guess we're just gonna have to wait until next year in order for it to make sense.
You guys know what we're doing next year.
There you go. Unless we forget and decide to do something else.
Yeah, we won't forget.
Oh, I'm sure we'll forget. We'll probably come to the same conclusion anyway. We'll be like, oh, what should we do this year? Oh, we did Friday the 13th. We did Halloween. You know what? We should do, oh no, we did Nightmare on Elm Street. We did Halloween. We should do Friday the 13th.
I was waiting to see how long it's going to take you to fix
You know what? That's me. You shouldn't do that, okay? Wow.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ben?
Don't start with me, okay? I'll end it.
You'll end it.
That's right.
Alright, guys, podcast period has been canceled. Ben doesn't want to play anymore.
Sorry, it's just how it has to be.
That would be so terrible. And so untrue. We'll be back next week. Well, not next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. See how many bloopers we can have in this. That's what we need to do. We need our blooper reel now that we have actual face expressions.
You mean webcam video?
Yeah, sure, whatever. Sure. Well, I mean, you could say that, but that could also sound really dirty too. Facial expressions was at least.
What? How does webcam video sound dirty?
It could be anything.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You're not gonna roll with me on this, are you?
No, I'm not going to.
All right, whatever. Okay, with that said and done, I hate you. Goodbye.
All right, so I figure we're gonna go ahead and give our ratings, and then we can do something that we did last year during our Halloween special as well. I've got another scary stories subreddit that we could read some stories off of, but these are going to be a little bit longer, so we probably not going to read as many this time.
Sweet.
So, that being said, what do you give? Oh, before we give the rating, I want to know if you know this. Do you know the connection between this movie and the original Star Trek series?
There's a connection?
There is the connection.
I do not know this connection.
Okay. So, it was a rumor for a long time, but apparently it's been confirmed. So I can say this with complete confidence that the Michael Myers mask, the original one, is a Captain Kirk Halloween mask from like the original series around that time frame. And they just painted it white.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think they may have cut out the eyes a little bit more too, because I saw the original one when I was researching it, just to make sure I had all my facts straight.
Gotcha.
And it looks like the eyes are a little bit bigger, but
I never understood the reason behind the mask, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't get the reason behind the mask either. Probably so they could do sequels and recast people if they needed to. I don't know. I don't know if they made this with the intention of making any sequels, but
you think that might be the reason? That'd be one cool way to do it.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Nice tidbit,
okay.
Man.
Anyway, what do you give this movie out of 5 repainted Captain Kirk masks?
We're just heavily coated in the paint theme this week, aren't we? I would give it a solid 3.5.
3.5? I think I'd go a little bit higher than you. I'll give it a 4. Give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep saying this over and over again, but I honestly really did enjoy this movie a lot more than I thought I would.
It'd be higher up if it wasn't so slow paced. At least in the beginning.
I don't know. I feel like the beginning is the best part. Like right after he gets in there, them building the tension, him stalking her around. I don't know. That's like one of the best parts of the movie for me, I think.
I like the pacing from when he escapes to just after we see him in the backyard or the front yard or whatever yard that is, outside her house. But then when we get to the pacing of actual Halloween night, specifically the first babysitter and like getting stuck in the laundry room, in the window, it was a little long in the tooth there. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That was still part of the tension building for me, and up until he actually started doing things, It was all tension building for me. Yeah, pretty much. All right, so I will go ahead and start us off. This subreddit is called No Sleep. I'll make sure that I give David the links and everything so we can have everything down in the show notes. Actually, I don't need to give David the links. I just need the links. Anyway.
Yeah, but I need the links so I know what I'm reading.
Yeah, I'll send you the links once I give you the next one. I just don't know how long these are going to be, so I don't want to send you one and then not get to read it. So, let's see. Sure, why not? We'll do the top one right here. This is called "My Sugar Daddy Asks Me for Weird Favors." Okay. This is by a user named EAPATBP. I don't know how to pronounce that, so that's what we're gonna go with.
I'm lost. No surprise there, right?
No, not really. Okay. His Tinder profile said he was 45, but he looked to be in his early 30s at most. Looking for a sugar baby, 700 weekly, no sex. It sounded too good to be true, but as a broke university student, I was willing to take my chances. I swiped right, and Tinder let me know it was a match. His message came seconds later. Hey there, sweetheart. I cringed at that word. I hated it. But $700 was $700, so I sucked it up and replied, Hey. His name was Jack, and he told me he owned his own business, although he never specified what kind of business it was. We talked for a while before he asked me for my Venmo to send me the first payment. After a few minutes, I got the notification. I stared at the $700 for at least 20 minutes, expecting to wake up from my dream at any second, but it wasn't a dream. You still there? I clicked on the message. Yeah, sorry. If you don't mind me asking, what are you looking for in return? I stared at the chat until he replied. I'm just looking for you to do a few favors for me. That sounded like it was going to be sexual to me. Like what? For example, first thing I need you to do is pick up a delivery for me. That sounded innocent enough, but I was still expecting there to be some kind of twist. $700 to pick up a package? Come on, even I wasn't that naive. From the post office or something? No, I'll send you the address, but I'd rather not do this through Tinder. You got Kick? Or you can give me your number. Kick? What was this, 2011? I decided to give him my number instead, and he texted me the address immediately, followed by the address to his house where I would have to drop off the package. I'm not home right now, but there's a key at the bottom of the blue flower pot near the door. Go inside and put the package on the coffee table in the living room. Make sure you lock the door when you go inside the house, and lock it again when you leave. I grabbed my car keys and wallet and got into my car, putting the address into Google Maps. Got it, on my way. My phone buzzed as I backed out of my driveway. I'm serious. Lock the door both times, please. I thought that was a little excessive, but I promised him that I would. The house looked abandoned, and it had a broken chain link fence around it. The small door that was hanging on to dear life stuck out like a sore thumb, surrounded by houses that were a lot nicer than this one in comparison. You here for Jack's stuff? I looked up to see a man standing in the doorway of his house. He took up almost the entire space, his head skimming the top of the doorframe. He was huge in height and muscles, and his entire torso was covered in tattoos. Yeah, I guess, I replied, not moving from my spot on the sidewalk. Stay right there, he said. I did. I actually don't think I would have moved if he had asked me to. I looked around and realized that there was no one else on the street. I was a 21-year-old woman alone in the street. I gripped my car keys. A few minutes later, the man came back out carrying a cardboard box. It was about the size of a shoebox, but stained and damp on some of the corners. Can you open your car? He asked. I opened the trunk, not wanting that inside on my car seats, and he set it in. All right, there you go, he said. Thanks, I replied. I walked around to the driver's side of the car and opened the door. Oh, and one more thing, he said. I looked at him. Watch out, he said. I didn't reply. I blasted my music as I drove to Jack's house, hoping it would drown out my anxiety. It didn't. I parked my car in the stone driveway and stayed inside the car, admiring the house. It was a huge house with stone pillars on the front and the greenest grass I had ever seen in my life. I turned the car off and got out. I grabbed the package and walked to the front door, grabbing the key from where he said it would be. I opened the door and stepped inside, closing it behind me. I thought about what he said about locking the door when I got inside. I thought that was a little overboard, but as I stared at the closed door, something made me reach out and lock it. I walked inside, my feet cushioned by the thick maroon carpet, and admired the inside of the house. All the furniture was wooden and looked incredibly expensive. I would probably finish school a dozen times with the money that it took to furnish this place. I set the package down on the coffee table, and as I walked back out the door, I heard a phone ringing from somewhere inside the house. I froze. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. I took it out to look. Don't answer any calls that aren't from Marvin. I put my phone back and followed the sound of the phone, poking my head into a few different rooms before I found it in an office. I walked over to the desk and looked at the caller ID. Incoming call from Jack. That was odd. I grabbed my phone to look at the message again. I was starting to get a little creeped out and decided I wouldn't answer, just to be safe, and locked the door. Left the house, remembering to lock the door as I left. I've done a few more favors for Jack since then. I drove a BMW to a random park in another city, only to get out and drive a different car back to Jack's house. He had me meet one of his employees at lunch, who then gave me a briefcase to deliver to the first house I had gone to and told me he would know if I looked inside. On several occasions, he asked me to drive down to that same house and stay with the guy, whose name was Julio, for a certain amount of time. In total, I've made around $3,500. Most recently, Jack asked me to stay in his house overnight. I woke up from a text message from him. I need you to spend the night at my house. I hadn't ever seen him in person, but I had talked to him on the phone a couple times. He proceeded to tell me that he would pay me $1,000 to spend the night at his house, provided that I followed a few rules. I drove to his house that evening. The driveway was empty, as it normally was, but the porch light was on. I walked up, unlocked the door, went inside, and then locked it again. Everything in the house looked the same. Jack told me over the phone that he would leave the list of rules on the dining table. I set all my stuff down in the living room. My bags looked like garbage, almost looked like garbage compared to the fancy furniture in there. I wandered into the kitchen, then to the dining room. Sure enough, there was a piece of paper on the wooden table held down by an empty glass. Lock the door when you come in. Only answer calls from Marvin. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. If the door to the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. The gardener comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. Turn on the TV and let it play on static throughout the night. Do not forget to do this. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I'll pay you in the morning. Good night. I made sure to follow all the rules. To be honest, I was regretting my decision, but seeing as I was already here and I was getting paid, I decided to stay anyway. I figured as long as I followed the rules, I would be perfectly fine. Still, it felt a little odd. What was this? A haunted house? Nevertheless, I lounged around the house for a few hours. I was planning on going to sleep around 9, since that's the time all the weird stuff started to happen. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth using the faucet the last time before 9. I checked the closet in the hallway, and upon seeing that it was open, I moved my stuff into the library and got ready to sleep on the couch. I locked the doors just in case and laid on the couch, scrolling through my phone. I hadn't gotten any more messages from Jack, and I started to think up scenarios and reasons as to why he had put such strict and peculiar sets of rules in his house. I had dozed off at some point because at exactly 10:16 p.m., I was woken up by the doorbell ringing. I was about to get up to check, but then I remembered the rule. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. I stayed on the couch, trying not to move, paranoid they would hear even the slightest sound. It's the police! Open up! I didn't move. Hello? It's the police! Open up or we're coming in! I still didn't move, but I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. There was silence for a while after that. Then the doorbell rang again. Hey, it's Jack! Let me in! It sounded like Jack, but still, I didn't get up. He would have a key, wouldn't he? Why would he need me to let him in? This continued for almost a full hour. Different people would ring the doorbell, announce themselves, and then disappear when I didn't respond. I was finally able to sleep, and the gardener never came. When I woke up the next morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. I got up slowly, unlocked the door as quietly as possible, taking my phone with me and walking across the living room and into the kitchen. I stopped at the entrance and peered in. It was Jack. He was standing in front of the stove, stirring something as the coffee machine brewed coffee on the counter behind him. "Hey, good morning," he said when he saw me. "Hi," I replied, nervous. I hadn't seen him in person before, but he looked exactly like his pictures online. "Scrambled eggs?" he asked, motioning to the pan with a wooden spoon. "Yeah, thanks," I replied, walking over to take the plate from him. I ate my breakfast and drank some coffee in silence. "So, how was it?" he asked. "It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened," I replied. "Cool," he replied. There was an awkwardness in the room. "I think I'm gonna go now. I have class," I trailed off. I didn't, but I really wanted to get out of there. "Oh no, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you some other time," he replied. I grabbed my stuff and he walked me to my car. I could see him standing in the driveway staring at me when I left. When I got home, I unpacked all of my stuff and noticed I still had the list with me. I sat on my bed and read it again. I felt my body tense up as I realized I had forgotten it. I had forgotten something. Turn the TV on and let it play on static throughout the night. Do not forget to do this. Turn the TV on and let it play static throughout the night. Do not forget to do this. Do not forget to do this. I stared at the words on the page until they lost meaning. Beside me, my phone buzzed, snapping back to reality. It was a $1,000 payment. I looked at my phone and then back at the list. Maybe it wasn't an important step? As I was thinking this over, a text from Jack came in. "I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week, so you're free from running any more errands for me until then. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun." I stared at the message and read it again, and once more for good measure. "I'm not in town right now." I thought back to this morning, how Jack was in his house, how he gave me breakfast. "I'm not in town right now." Within minutes, a new text came in, this time from a number I didn't recognize. "Did you forget to do something, winky face?" The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was outside of my house. It was followed by another text. "Watch out." Woo! Creepy.
Okay. So, I have this lovely list of notes that you aren't going to see,
Okay.
but I'm going to read them off to you because this threw me for so many loops. I don't even know.
Mhm.
And the one thing I didn't write down was the damn TV. But the first thing what's the package? What's in the package? Because I thought that's where this story was going, and then we got way past that. So I was like, okay, she escaped the first person? ? And she did. And then she said something about maroon carpets. I was like, I literally wrote, "It's red to hide the blood." Then we didn't hear nothing about that. And then we get to, I don't know what point, and I was like, this is not what I was expecting. Because at some point, I'm just totally lost. And then we get that weird, huge list of stupid things, and I'm like, what's the point? I don't understand. And it all boils down to the TV that I always leave on at night anyways. I can't go to sleep without the TV on at some point. I need the noise. So that'd be the one thing I'd be okay.
Turning the TV on.
Turning the TV on. So I guess I'm safe.
Well, it's good to know that your sugar daddy wouldn't murder you. Or your sugar daddy's doppelganger, I guess. Oh boy! All right, I sent you the link for the next one. It's probably the last one that we're gonna read because this is pretty long.
That was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Alrighty. So, this one is going to be titled Something Walks Whilst Passing My House Every Night at 3:03.
Whistling.
What did I say?
Whilst.
Did I say whilst?
Yeah.
Wow. I was in the middle of moving the stupid tab around, so maybe that's what it was. Whatever.
Something walks whistling past my house every night at 3:03 a.m. At 3:03, I guess.
And it was posted by Grand Theft Auto, except it's Grand Theft Motto. Okay, whatever.
Grand Theft Motto.
Grand Theft Motto. Anyways, every night, no matter the weather, something walks down our street whistling softly. You can only hear it if you're in the living room or the kitchen when they walk by, and it always starts at exactly 3:03. The sound starts faint, somewhere near the beginning of the lane near the Carson place. We're towards the middle of the street, so the whistling moves past us before fading away in the direction of the cul-de-sac. When I was younger, my sister and I would sneak into the kitchen some nights to listen. Mom and Dad didn't like that, and we'd catch hell if they found us out there, but they were never too hard on us since we always stuck to the one big rule. Don't try to look at whatever was whistling. My neighborhood is a funny place. I've lived here since I was 6, and I love it. The houses are small but well kept. Good-sized yards, plenty of places to roam. There are a lot of other kids here my age. I turned 13 back in October. We grew up together and would always play foursquare in the cul-de-sac or roam around the back porch to back porch in the summer. This was a good place to grow up. I'm old enough to see it, and there's only two strange things here, the night whistling and the good luck. The whistling never bothered me much. Like I said, I couldn't even hear it from my bedroom. But Mom and Dad don't like talking about it, so I've stopped asking questions. My dad is a strong guy, tall and calm. He has an accent since he moved to the U.S. as a kid. His family, my grandparents, they're from the islands. That's what they call it. My dad, the only time he isn't so calm is if the whistler comes up. He talks a little quicker then. Eyes move faster, and he tells us not to think about it so much and to always remember the one rule, the big rule. Don't try to look outside when the whistler goes past. Not that we could look even if we wanted. See, there's shutters on the inside of every window. Thick pieces of heavy canvas that pull down from the top to latch to the bottom of the window frame. Each latch even has a small lock, about the size of what you'd find on a dairy. My friend...
Diary.
Good Lord. I was going to say, what? About the size of what you'd find on a diary. That makes so much more sense. My dad locks those shutters every night before we all go to bed and keeps the key in his room. My mom, I don't know what she thinks about the whistling. I've seen her out in the living room before at 3:03 when the sound starts. I could see her if I cracked my door open just an inch to peek. She's not out there often, at least. I haven't caught her much, but once or twice a month I think she sits out there on our big red couch just listening. At least it's not white. The whistler has the same tune every night. It's cheerful. Da 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 dum. Do da 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 dum. Remember how I said that there are two odd things about where I live? Well, besides our night whistler, everyone in the neighborhood is really lucky. It's hard to explain, and Dad doesn't like us talking about this part much either. But good things just seem to happen to people around here a lot. Usually it's small things, winning a radio contest, or getting an unexpected promotion at work, or finding some arrowheads buried in the yard. You know, the authentic kind. The weather is pretty good, and there's no crime, and everybody's gardens bloom extra bright in the fall. A million little blessings, I've heard my mom say about living here, but the main reason we stay here, why we moved here in the first place, is my sister, Nala. She was born very sick, something with her lungs. We couldn't even bring her home when she was born, only visit her in the hospital. She was so small, I remember, small even compared to the other babies. A machine had to breathe for her. We moved into our house here to be closer to the hospital. As soon as we moved, Nala started getting better. The doctors couldn't figure it out. They chalked it up to whatever they were doing, but we could all tell they were confused. But my parents knew, even I knew. Nala getting better was just another one of those million little blessings we got for living in our neighborhood. That's why we stayed even after we found out. For every small miracle that happens here every day, now and again, some bad things happen. But they only happen if you look for the Whistler. See, our neighborhood has a welcoming committee. They show up with a macaroni casserole and a gift basket and a manila folder whenever someone moves in. They're very friendly. 4 people showed up when we moved in 7 years ago. The committee made small talk, gave us a Snickers bar, and took turns holding Nala. It was her first week out of the hospital, so they were extra careful. And then the committee asked to speak to my parents in private, so I was sent to my room, where I still managed to hear nearly every word. The welcoming committee told my parents about how nice this neighborhood was. Really, exceptionally hard to explain kind of nice. And then they told my parents about the even harder explained whistling that happened every morning at 3:03 and ended at the tick of 3:05. The group, our new neighbors, warned my parents that the whistling was quiet, would never harm or hurt us, as long as we didn't look for what was making the sound. This part they stressed, and I pushed my ear into the door, straining to hear them. People who went looking for the Whistler had their luck change, sometimes tragically. A black cloud would hang over anyone that looked. Anything that could go wrong would. The manila envelope the committee brought over contained newspaper clippings, stories about car crashes and ruined lives, public deaths and freak accidents. Not everyone dies, I heard one of the committee tell my dad, but the life goes out of them. Even if they live, there's no light in them ever again. No presence. My mom, I could tell she wasn't taking it seriously. She kept asking if this is some kind of prank they play on new neighbors. At some point, my mom got angry, accused the committee of trying to scare us out of our new home, asked them if they were racist on account of my dad being from the islands. My dad calmed her down, told her he could tell our new neighbors were sincere and that they were just trying to help us. He explained that he grew up hearing these kinds of stories from his mom, and that he knew there were strange things that walked among us. Some of those strange things were good and some were bad, but most were just different. After the committee left, Dad went out to the hardware store, bought the canvas blinds, the latches, and the locks, and installed them on every window in the house after dinner. That first night in our new house, I crept out of my room at 3 a.m., only to find my dad awake, sitting in the living room couch, holding my baby sister. My dad held up his finger in a shh motion, but patted the couch next to him. I sat and we waited. At exactly 3:03, we heard the whistling. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. It came and it went, just like our neighbor said. The whistling returns each night, and we never look, and we enjoy our million little blessings every day. Nala breathes on her own, and she's grown into a strong, clever girl. My dad even joined the welcoming committee. We don't get new neighbors often. Why would anybody want to leave? But when a new family moves in, my dad and the committee bring them macaroni casserole, a gift basket, and the manila folder. I can always tell by the look on Dad's face when he comes back if the family took the committee seriously or if we'd be getting new neighbors again very soon. Not long ago, a family moved in directly next to us. The previous owner, Miss Maddie, passed away at the age of 105. Damn. She lived a good long life. Our neighbors seemed like they'd fit in just fine. They believed the welcoming committee. They took Dad's advice about the locking shutters since they had a young child of their own. Whatever newspaper clippings were in the manila envelope, whatever evidence, my dad never let us see. But I imagine it must have been an awfully convincing story since our neighbors got along with no issues for the first month. One night, when our new neighbors had to leave town, they sent their son, Holden, to stay with us. He was 12, a year under me in school. I didn't know him well before that night, but as soon as his parents dropped him off after dinner, I could tell it was going to be a bad time. Do you know who is always out there whistling every night? Holden asked the moment the adults left the room. 3 of us were sitting in the den, some Disney movie playing idly on the television. My sister and I exchanged a glance. We don't talk about that, I said. I think it's that weirdo that lives in the big yellow house on the corner, Holden said. Mr. Tolles? My sister asked. No way, he's really nice. Holden shrugged. Must be a psycho killer then. Nala tensed. We don't talk about it, I repeated. Let's go in my room and play Nintendo. We spent the next few hours playing games, eating popcorn, and then watching movies. A typical sleepover, but I could see Holden was getting antsy. After my parents had wished us good night, locked the blinds, and gone to bed, Holden stood up from his beanbag and walked over to where Nala and I were sitting on my bed. Have you ever even tried looking? He asked. It's nearly time. Like most sleepovers, we conveniently ignored any suggestions of a bedtime. I was shocked to see I was right. It was almost 3 a.m. I sighed. We don't. See, I can't. I can't even try to look because my dad locks the blinds every night and hides the key. He continued ignoring me. So does our dad, said Nala. No, replied Holden. No, he doesn't. You saw him do it, I said, a little sharper than I meant to sound. Holden grinned. Your dad locks the blinds, yeah, but he doesn't hide the key. He keeps it right on his normal keychain. So, I asked, worried. I already knew what he would say next, because I had noticed that my dad didn't bother hiding the key anymore after all these years, because he knew we took it seriously. So, after your dad locked up, but before your parents went to bed, I went to the bathroom, and on my way, I may have peeked into their room, and I may have seen your dad's keychain on his nightstand, and maybe I went and borrowed the key to the blinds. Nala and I stared at his grin, which only grew wider. You're lying, I said. Holden shrugged. You can check it if you want. Just open your parents' door and look. You'll see his keychain right there on the nightstand. Stay here, I told them both. Don't move a muscle. I hurried over to my parents' room but hesitated at the door. If Holden wasn't lying, my dad would be angry, beyond angry. I was scared thinking about it, but more scared of an open window with a whistler right outside. I opened the door, barely an inch, and looked in, but it was too dark to see. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the room. 2 steps in the dark and I froze. The whistling started. I could hear it clearly from my parents' room. I never realized, but they must have heard the sound every night since we moved into the house. They never told us. I don't think I could have slept through it. I stood there, listening to the whistling come closer, unsure whether I should turn on a light or call out for my dad. Soft sounds from the living room brought me back to reality. Nala, I yelled, running out of my parents' room. Nala and Holden were standing near the front door next to the window. Holden wasn't lying. I could see him fumbling with the lock on one of the blinds. I heard a click. He did have the key. Holden let out a quick laugh. Nala stood next to him, hunched up, afraid, but maybe curious. The whistling was right outside our house now. I think I made a sound, called out. I can't remember. Time felt frozen, clock hands nailed to the face. But I found myself moving. I'm not fast. I've never been athletic. Somehow, though, I covered the space between myself and Nala in the moment. My eyes were locked on her, but I heard Holden pull the blind all the way down so it could release. I heard the snap of it start to rise, and I heard the whistling just on the other side of the window. But I had my arms around Nala and I turned us so we were facing away from the window. At the same time, I jammed my eyes shut. The blind whipped open. The whistling stopped. I felt Nala shaking in my arms. Don't look, okay, I told her. Don't turn around. We were positioned so that she was facing back towards the hallway and I was facing the window. My eyes were still closed. I felt her nod into my shoulder. I reached out with the arm not holding Nala and tried to touch Holden. My hand brushed against his arm. He was shaking worse than Nala. Holden, I asked. Silence. I reached past him and gingerly felt for the window, my eyes still sealed shut. The glass was cold against my fingertips, colder than it should have been for that time of year. I moved my hand up the window, searching for the string of the blind. The glass began to get warmer the further I reached up, and there was a gentle hum feeding back into my fingertips. I tried not to think about what might be on the other side of the window. Finally, I touched the string and yanked the blind shut. I opened my eyes. In the dim light leaking out from the kitchen, I could make out Holden, pale and small, staring at a now closed window. Holden? I asked again. He turned towards me and he screamed. Everything became a flurry of motion. Lights sparkled to life in the hall, then the living room. My parents' footsteps thudded across the hardwood floor. I didn't look back at them. My eyes were glued to Holden. He was pale, had bit his lips so hard that there was a thin red line of blood running down his chin, and he'd wet himself. What happened, my dad asked from behind me. I managed to swivel away from Holden and look back. He looked! I'd never seen my dad scared before, but I saw it that night. In the moment, an old, ugly terror-stitched... An old, ugly terror stitched on his face. A parent's fear. Just Holden, he mouthed to me. I nodded yes. My dad let out a breath. He looked so relieved, I nearly expected him to cheer. But then he turned to Holden, and my dad's face changed. I wonder if he felt bad for feeling good that Holden was the only one that looked. There was a knock on the door. We all froze. Holden whimpered. Don't answer it, my mom said. She stood at the threshold of the hall. I'd always thought she was the skeptic and just humored my dad about the windows and the whistler. But that night, we were all believers. I noticed that both of my parents had baseball bats. They must have taken from their bedroom. The knock came again, a little louder this time. Please don't open the door, Holden whispered. My dad walked over to him, hugged him close. We won't, my dad promised, still holding his bat. Nothing is coming in here tonight. Thud, thud, thud. This time the knocking was loud enough to rattle the door. Holden screamed again, and Nala clutched her arms around my neck. My mom came over and knelt down next to us, wrapping my sister and me close. Thud, thud, thud. Call the police, my mom whispered to my dad. Oh. Whoops. Call the police, my mom whispered to my dad. The knocking instantly stopped. My dad looked over his shoulder at us. "Do you think?" He was cut off by the frantic knocking that trailed off to a polite tap, tap, tap. "Police," something said from the other side of the door. The voice from outside sounded exactly like my mom, like a parrot repeating the words back to her. "Police! Call the police! Tap, 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 police!" My mom pulled us closer. "Police! Police! 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 Please stop," I heard her whisper. "I don't think calling them will help," my dad said. "How will we know when they are the ones at the door?" The knocking came back harder than before. The door shook, then it stopped. After a long moment, I heard the knocking again, but it was coming from our back door. We all turned together towards the back door, but the knocking immediately returned to the front door. Front to back, back to front. Loud then quiet, then loud again. Suddenly, the sound was coming from both doors at once. Big, heavy blows, like a sledgehammer. Then something started rapping against all the windows in the house, then the walls. It was like we were living inside of a drum with a dozen people trying to play at once. Or we were a turtle and something was attempting to claw us out of our shell. "Stop!" Holden yelled. The knocking died. "I won't tell," Holden said, staring at the door. "I promise I won't tell anyone what I saw. Just please go away." We waited for nearly a minute, then we heard it, a soft tap, 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 coming from the window Holden had looked through earlier. Holden started to cry, sobbing like a prisoner watching gallows being built outside their cell. My dad held him, brushed his hair, but never lied to him. He never told him things would be okay. The tapping at the window went on for the rest of the night. We huddled together in the living room for I don't know how long. Eventually, my mom tried to take us kids into my room while my dad stayed to watch the door. But the second we moved into my bedroom, the knocking came back, so loud it was possible to ignore. I was afraid the door couldn't take it. Should be impossible to ignore, whatever. We went back to the living room and the knocking stopped. Only the tap, tap, tap on the window remained. None of us slept that night. The tapping stopped around 7 a.m. That's about the time the sun comes up here. We waited another 2 hours before my dad opened the blinds from one window. He made us all go back to my parents' bedroom first. I heard him open the door, then came back in. "Okay," he told us, "it's done." Holden's parents came back around lunchtime. My mom and dad walked Holden over to his house, and they all went inside for quite a while. Nala and I watched from the window. She stuck to me the whole day, right at my side, sometimes holding my hand. When my parents came back, they looked grim, but wouldn't tell us what they'd said to Holden's family. It was a Sunday, so we all spent the day together, ordered a pizza, and watched movies. That night, everybody slept in my room. Nala and my mom in the bed with me, my dad in the chair. He pulled over. There was no knocking that night or any night since. We didn't see much of Holden or his parents for the rest of the week, but by Thursday there was a moving truck in their driveway. Nala and I watched them packing up the whole afternoon after school. What sticks out the most is how tired Holden and his parents looked. All three had the same parlor, grim mouths, and lightless eyes. Even from across the street, I could tell something was very wrong. Holden and his family were gone before sunset. I remember what the original welcoming committee said to my parents when we moved in. Not everyone who looks at the Whistler dies, but even those that live have the light go out of them, and the rest of their lives are full of misfortune, a million little tragedies. I think Holden's parents must have looked, either to comfort him if they didn't believe, or share the burden if they did. I watch Nala some days, happy and young and alive, and I wonder if I'd been slower, if she had looked out the window that night, would I have looked too, to comfort her, to share that burden? I'm glad I don't have to find out. We still live in that house, in that neighborhood. We still hear our Whistler walking past every night. The blessings, the luck, the good things here are good. The good things here are too good to leave. But we're careful. We don't have any friends over to spend the night anymore, and my dad hides the key to the blinds very, very well. Not that I've gone looking. Some things you just don't need to look for.
True that.
Wow. I want to know what it was. But we won't know.
Man. I don't know.
Which one do you think would be worse?
I don't know. I feel like probably the sugar daddy would be worse.
The sugar daddy would be worse.
Yeah, just because of like all the weird rules and stuff that you have to follow and remember. It's just very simple. Don't look out the window. I can do that. I don't look out the window most times anyway.
I don't think I would have to worry about either one of those, because if I had heard the story of a whistler every night, I don't think I'd stay there long enough to find out. And I'm not on Tinder looking for a sugar mama to help. So
no.
I guess I'm fine.
All right. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave this special Halloween episode of Podcast Period. Be sure to leave a rating on whatever podcasting platform you happen to be listening on. And, yeah, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of Podcast Period. This episode was hosted and produced by Ben and co-hosted and edited by David. You can contact Ben on Twitter at BenPlaysVidges. That's Ben Plays VIDYAS. And you can contact David on Twitter at Car6by16. If you'd like to chat with us about any of the topics on this episode, you can hit up the show at Podcast Period on Twitter, or shoot us an email at podcastperiodpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a new website that has launched featuring new articles written by us, as well as links to all the episodes. Please visit that at podcastperiod.com. Want to do more for the show, but aren't sure how? We have a Patreon for that. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes and so much more, and support the show while doing it. Just go to patreon.com/podcastperiod. Do you love sci-fi movies and shows? So do we. That's why we created the podcast from Planet X, a podcast where we analyze and discuss your favorite pieces of sci-fi media. Check it out at the link in the show notes. That's all for this week. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
This was a Nerdgasm podcast production.
Well, that was another in a long series of regrettable life choices.
Served at nerdgasmpodcast.com.